I hope everybody is in a good mood and ready for a good time. I especially love this because I'm under no pressure. Except I hope I know the answers to the questions, but if I don't, I think it's okay. You know, but I don't have to be prepared or anything like that. So that it's nice just to hang out with everybody. Are you all ready for Christmas? Good
Shopping
grief,
on
Jen.
Saturday.
You're having yours Saturday? Is that what you said?
I'm shopping on Saturday,
You're
so
shopping on Saturday. Well, my Christmas is going to be December 16th, so a week from tomorrow. So it forces me to do everything early, you know. So I'm still I got most of my things, everything's ordered. A few of the things still have to come, and I'm going to wrap presents and I'm putting up my tree. So I've been very busy, like everybody. So okay, well, we might as well get started. Um, I think there'll be a lot more people joining us as we go through the night. But so does anybody have any particular questions? I know I have just a few that were emailed in, but yeah, maybe we should just start with those. Let's start with those. I know Kathy Costner sent some questions in. Why don't we start with Kathy's?
Okay, sure. So let's see here. Kathy asked, Kathy, do you want to go ahead and just ask them since you sent them? We have them, we have your email, I have them from your
That's a
email.
good way to do it.
Let me get a copy of them right quick. I
Okay.
don't want a copy. Hang on a sec. Okay.
So did you guys after the workshop, did you have a lot of questions in your mind, or did you feel like you got a good handle on what that was all about?
that was pretty clear. I mean, the first time I do it, I'm gonna have a lot more questions, but I got the big picture.
That's
Um,
good.
it's not scary.
Good. That's good. And Matthew sent out the links for the recordings tonight, so you'll have those, so you can do a replay of them and watch anything that you might have had questions on. Hi, Angela. Good to see you. And I'm looking for others, but people don't have their camera on. And if you do, and I haven't mentioned your name, I'm not seeing it. Are there more that I can't see? Matthew, do I need to scroll down or do anything?
Yeah, you can just scroll down on this list here.
Aha. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm feeling terribly underdressed, but at least I have the right background on.
Well, your background makes you look real festive, so.
Yeah, Angela, that's a festive background for sure.
Okay, I've got the questions.
Okay.
I guess my first question was, you were talking about if a borrower pays late or makes a partial payment or a late payment, do you need to redo the amortization schedule and reflect that on there, or should you track it separately? How do you handle that?
That is an excellent question. There isn't a specific answer because it depends on the state that the note is written in, or where the property is located, and it depends on how the note is written. So one of the reasons that I always say when you write the note, it should say like 5% interest on the unpaid balance. Okay. And I always put in there, it's 5% annual compounded monthly on the unpaid balance. And by doing that, that allows you, if they're 10 days late, to not apply the payment until that 10th day. So instead of reducing the unpaid balance, let's say it's a $500 payment, you get to accrue 10 days of interest on the $500 that they did not pay because it was 10 days late. And so if you have somebody who is always late, it's worth it to go back and see, I always keep my balances on T value. I run a T value for each note, and I just save that T value. So then I can go in and change the dates of the payments or, add the next payment and that kind of thing. So if they're late a lot, that is a really good thing to do. However, in some states, if it's written that the note is payable in 60 monthly installments of $1,000. If it's written as an installment, then you need to apply the payment on the day it was due, even if it's 10 days late. And I don't know what states are like that, but I have heard of that happening before. So that's just my rule of thumb. If I see that it's an installment, I'm less likely to do that. I'll just calculate it as though it's paid when due, except I do add a late charge. Now in T value, it doesn't really have a late charge, and it may now on the newer version, but and it may have it on the older version, and I just never figured out how to use it. But what I do, because it's easy for me, is if they're late, I just, instead of payment, I put loan, and if it's a $50 late charge, it's like I lent them $50 more.
Okay.
So it creates, it increases their balance by $50. So that's how I do that. Did that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. What's your next one? I think you have three. of them.
I noticed in the paperwork, the term security agreement and assignment of leases and rents. And I was wondering, is that standard language in all states, or is that just in Georgia where this deal was done? And I know that deed to secure debt was particular to Georgia, and it's basically the same thing as a deed of trust or mortgage, but I didn't know about those other terms.
Okay, so you are correct that in Georgia, they always talk about a deed to secure debt. It's not always that exact thing, but that's probably the most common that I've seen anyway. And I can't say that I have seen that term in other states. So I think that may be exclusive to Georgia. But security agreement, that is a real common thing. A lot of times it might say mortgage and security agreement. Actually, sometimes a security agreement can be separate, but normally with a real estate mortgage, it would say mortgage and security agreement. Or like where I've noticed that it really comes into play is if I'm doing a collateral assignment of a note, and then I've actually had title companies want me to say collateral assignment of a note and security agreement, even if it was really a mortgage. That was the way they wanted it to be recorded so that they would insure everything. So my rule of thumb on that is I use whatever is on that document.
Okay.
I always use that title. And as far as assignment of rents, in most states, or at least in some states, I'll say for sure, an assignment of rents is statutory. So even if it is not written in the mortgage, you probably still have an assignment of rents. It used to be that I always did a separate document, and I would record the mortgage and I would record the assignment of rents.
Oh.
But then I found that that was not necessary. That was totally overkill. So assignment of rents could be in any state.
So it sounds like a title company, excuse me, can kind of guide you a little bit.
Yes, where you would find that is in the requirements on the title commitment. You know how they have requirements and they have exceptions. They might say we need proper assignment of the documents, or we need a collateral assignment of the note and security agreement. They might list it right in those requirements.
Okay.
I don't remember how it was when that happened to me, but they definitely came back and told me to change when I sent the documents in. They said they wanted that changed, the title of the document. And that also could simply be the way the document is indexed at that particular courthouse.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know why, but if they're insuring it, I'll do it how they want me to do it,
Great.
So,
And the last question I had was, in the agreement back near the back, when you make all these provisions for, like if the if the borrower defaults and there's going to be a foreclosure or whatnot, the $10,000 you
Oh,
are
yeah.
charging and or whatever amount you set, how does that go over with the seller as far as when they, decide to do the agreement or
I thought
sell
that
the
was-
note and agree to the agreement? I was just kind of wondering if that.
Well, I thought that was a very good question. And we've only done it once, so I can only tell you that it was not a problem with this one. But I would have no problem explaining that. And what Kathy is talking about is in the option agreement. If you will recall, if the note is 30 days late, then Ivan has to notify, in that case, it was Richard, that the people are late. And then if Richard is concerned about how Ivan is going to handle the foreclosure, or what's going to happen if he sells the property, will I be protected? Will it sell for enough? That kind of thing. Then really Richard should exercise his option and just buy out Ivan. And he needs to understand that going in. That is a fact of life. And that is the risk that he must be willing to take if he wants to sell part of the note. No one is going to buy part of the note. I shouldn't say no one, maybe somebody would, but I certainly would not buy part of the note and then have my hands tied as to what I can do to protect my first position interest, so that's why that should be in there. And the reason that I added that in is because otherwise, if they go into default, Richard could sit back and say, hey, Ivan, you go ahead and foreclose. You come up with $6,000 or $7,000 to pay an attorney. You go to court. You do all that. And then after you get the property, then I'll buy you out. And that's not fair.
No.
That's not fair at all for Ivan to spend all the time and money, and all he gets is what is owed to him when he has gone out of his way to protect, everybody's interest. And so that's why I thought it was only fair. We originally put 20,000 in and then we backed it down to 10. But you can make that. You can make it 5,000. You can make it whatever you want. But I feel like Ivan Investor needs to be compensated if he is the one that is making sure the foreclosure goes through and everybody's going to benefit from it. So that is why that's on there. I would have no problem at all explaining that to the note seller. And I would simply say, if you have any concerns, if you don't want to pay that, just go ahead and buy the note from Ivan, but just buy me out. And I'm happy to let you handle it. That's fine. And
Okay.
so I do not see where that would ever be a problem. If it is, then they shouldn't sell the note to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you could, if it was a problem, you could always negotiate it down and say, all right, I'll do it for 5,000, but I need to be compensated.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
recommend that, but if you feel better about it and it helps you to keep the deal, then you could certainly do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Catherine, did you have a question?
No, I just saw Aliana's makeup. Wow. So, okay.
Oh, I haven't seen, where is she? That's totally awesome. Can everybody see?
A real Rudolph.
Yeah. That's a great costume, Eliana. Really.
Thank you.
And Melanie, glad to see you. And I like your shirt and hat. That's cool. Very good. Okay. Any other questions?
Melanie, you didn't fail to surprise me. I knew you were gonna bring something good. I love the Grinch hat.
Oh, really? I thought I was kind of homing it, calling it in this time. Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, we got some more questions here from the emails. Let's go ahead and ask. Steve isn't on right now, but he asked, should I market for notes in California? Can I close deals with you from California? If not California, where else could I look? And he lives in California, by the way.
can you repeat that again? Just how should he market in California? Is that what he's asking?
Should he market for notes in California? Can he close deals with you from California? If not California, where else should he look?
Okay. So if you want notes in California, absolutely market for them and use the same techniques that we do otherwise. The only reason that I don't market in California, well, nowadays I have a lot of reasons, but in the past, the reason that I have not marketed in California for a long time is California has always, or for a very long time, had very unique laws, the way they handle things, the way they handle an escrow. And if you are familiar with those laws and you want notes in California, then by all means, you should market in California. But it's not just California. I feel that way about, like, Maryland was one of the first ones to have really strange laws. And so I quit buying notes there. But if I lived in Maryland and I knew the laws and I was willing to, abide by them and it wasn't causing a problem for what I was trying to accomplish, I would certainly market in Maryland. So one of the beauties about doing the notes is that you can be anywhere in the world. And as long as you have internet and FedEx, you can be buying a note. I have had multiple times where the note seller or the borrower was overseas. I've had some who were in the service. They would have to go to the consulate in order to get their signature notarized, and then they would overnight the package back to the title company. But it absolutely can be done. And so it does not have to be in the state that you live in. Right now, I'm still seeing the same states that are the most popular, where I get the most deals from, are Texas and Florida. I mean, I just get a tremendous amount of those. I also am getting a lot from Georgia, from both North and South Carolina, and from Tennessee. But the thing is, you can really market from anywhere, except the ones I would stay away from are the ones that I've mentioned in the marketing webinars. And that would be California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Maryland. Did I say California already?
Yes.
Those are pretty much the ones. And the reason is all because of their laws. Their laws are different. They're very pro borrower, and some of them, like Illinois, has flat out a law that you need a license in order to flip a note. So I used to buy in Illinois, but I haven't bought in Illinois in probably 20 years, since the SAFE Act is when they enacted their own state law. That happened a lot when the SAFE Act came out. I want to say that was something like 2004, around there. And when that came out, a lot of states created their own SAFE Act type laws that were even stricter than the SAFE Act, and Illinois was one of them. So if you are going to market in one of those states I mentioned, I would recommend that you either speak to an attorney or get with your local RIA group and talk to others who are buying notes in those states to make sure that you are complying with the state law. Because I certainly am not equipped to help you with in those states, because I know that they have some special laws. Bill.
I'll just add on to what Donna said. Yeah, I agree with her 100%, of course. And I know, like, for example, a non-performing note buyer and investor who lives in the state of New Jersey, and he loves to buy actually in New Jersey and New York, because the thinking is, at least what he was telling me, and I agree with what Donna says, I don't really look there. And what he said, that's what's great. Hardly anybody does.
Yes.
You know, the vast majority of people just won't even consider buying in New Jersey and New York. And he
Yep.
lives there. He's within, you know, a day's drive of an awful lot of them. He knows the laws both in New Jersey and New York, forward and backward. And when he's putting in bids, he just incorporates, you know, the longer term time frame and the higher foreclosure costs. He just kind of adjusts that into his bid when he's bidding on the non-performing notes, and he actually does quite well in those states, believe it or not. So just exactly what she said. If you live in a place and you really understand everything that's going on, and you have good legal counsel there, which is also on top of the laws and all that type of thing, you could buy in those places. But you can tell I learned a lot from Donna, because I don't either. But it can be done.
I think that if you are familiar with New Jersey and New York, and you always use an attorney to close your transaction,
Yep.
I think you could get great deals there.
Yep.
But see, like, you would need to know, like in New York City, particularly nowadays, you would want to know, is that property in a good area or a bad area, or should I just stay out of New York City? And I have students who are buying in New York City, but for them, they're not worried about it, and they know where they're buying, and they use an attorney. And so I think it's personal preference, you know, and if just make sure you use an attorney in those two states. And over the years, I have bought a lot of notes in New Jersey. I always used an attorney, and I didn't have a problem with it. But then I started hearing war stories and stuff, so I just said, and also, like, some of the institutional buyers, they put it on the list of not to buy, and I kind of followed along with them because I figured they've bought a lot more notes than I have, and if they're staying out of a state, maybe I should too. I will tell you this, I've noticed on the list of institutions, those states can change over time, and one of the things was, like, Ohio was on a list where they would not buy notes in Ohio, and that's where I live. And it's just a regular old Midwest state, you know? And the reason was because after the 2008 downturn, they found that the notes where they got the houses back, in Ohio, it was very hard to resell those houses. And I think the same thing happened with Nevada, probably Oregon, you know, so that can also have a lot of effect on how quickly will that market recover. And quite frankly, I think that's why Texas and Florida are everybody just flocks there, and I mean, to buy notes, because those markets are so much stronger than other areas of the country. I mean, there's such an influx of people there that the real estate market is just very strong. So, any other any other comments on that? But I love that you can do notes from anywhere. And I mean, if you're on vacation, many times I would be at the beach, literally, and I just take my laptop and I take my whatever folders were active, and I would just I'd set up the closings while the kids were out playing on the beach with their dad, and I'd still close the deals even though I wasn't even at the office. So that's one of the great things about doing notes. Okay. Okay. Any other question?
Angela in the chat said, is there a priority on states that are nearby in case there's a need to buy or manage the property?
So I used to always say that I would not buy a note unless it was within driving distance of my home. And I no longer include that as one of my criteria because one, it's pretty easy to get from state to state, much easier than in the first 10 years I was in business. But also, ever since the 2008 downturn, there are so many third-party companies that it's easy to outsource that. Granted, you won't be looking at it personally, but there are companies that you can pay that will go into a property and they'll take a video, send it to you. If you need to talk to the borrower, they will go up, knock on the door, and hand them a cell phone and say, "Hey, your mortgage holder wants to talk to you." So it's very easy to outsource those things. So I would say it is more a matter of what are you comfortable with? And certainly, if you are a hands-on person and you want to make all the decisions yourself, then it would make sense that you would invest in notes that are closer to your house. Or, like, if your kids live in Alabama and you want to write that off, and you go down there a couple times a year anyway, then, buy notes where you would routinely go or wouldn't mind going. Okay. But the issue is, there's two issues. Are you familiar with the laws in that state? And if there was a default, are you okay with outsourcing whatever might need to be done to handle it? That's a good question. We had another question from Stan, and that question was, he was saying that there's a lot of expired listings right now, and he wanted to know how to go about marketing to those. And that is, I think it is a great idea and a very, very good source of leads, but you do have to be careful on how you market. And I please listen to this, because if you're thinking about doing it, there is a fine line when you call these people, because you cannot help them to sell their house unless you are a licensed realtor, and you cannot give them legal advice or prepare documents unless you're a licensed attorney. What you can do is you can approach them and you can say, "I understand, I saw that your listing was expired. Are you still interested in selling the house? I am a note buyer and a real estate investor, and there is a strategy that you could use that might help you to sell the house. I actually buy seller carryback notes." And then I would explain what a seller carryback is. If you market your house as a for sale by owner and you find a qualified buyer and you have an attorney handle the closing, prepare all the documents, and you close with an attorney, then I might buy that note from you and cash you out. And so the thing is, it has to be a note that I would find acceptable. And what I would do is I would go back to the presentation that I made recently. Oh, maybe that might not have been to the whole group. Yeah, I definitely have made it. You'll see it in any of the academies that I did. And that is, what is a perfect note? That's actually in your online academy. What is a perfect note? And I list the top criteria. I like it not too long of a term, a decent interest rate, borrowers who have good credit, they've put a nice down payment, hopefully 20%, but it never is, but at least 10%. And I would take those points off of that slide. And I would say, so if you want to do this, if you were to sell your house, like I mentioned, and when you get people coming to look, try to find the buyers who would most qualify and hit these high points here, because that's what would enable me to pay the most for your note. Do you see that that's a lot different than saying, hey, if you want to carry back a note, I can show you exactly how to do it. And I can tell you exactly what you need so that you'll get the very most for that note when you go to sell it. You cannot do that. Then you are helping them to sell the property. And that's why I don't often go into much detail on this, because I'm kind of concerned that people will not follow that rule and then they'll get themselves in trouble. So it's very important that you approach it as, if you were to carry back a note, I might buy that note. And here are the terms that I would be looking for. And these are the things that would allow me to pay the most for your note. Do you see the difference in that? And as long as you approached it like that and you were careful not to give legal advice and not to come across as, I'm going to help you sell your house. It needs to be, I'm a note buyer. And if you were to carry back a note, there's a good chance I could buy it from you. And, you know, this is an alternative to having to sell the property outright. And you definitely would want to talk about seasoning and tell them that, that generally speaking, most people want to see 6 to 12 months of seasoning, but it really depends on how much of a down payment the people have made and how good their credit is. And quite frankly, this summer I bought a note. It had we flipped it to a bank, and they had only made one payment, and so we had evidence that that payment had been deposited into the bank account, but the buyer had like a 700 and something credit score, very, very high credit score. And they put a huge down payment. They made a huge down payment. So that was easy to sell to one of the banks. So just keep that in mind if you're doing that. So that's what I would tell them, that generally we're looking for, most people I'd say are looking for 6 to 12 months of seasoning. But if you have a really strong buyer, they have a good credit score and they put down a nice down payment, then a lot of times we can buy it even way sooner than that. Okay. But I do think that's a great way to find leads. And if I were going to do that, I would make up a trifold brochure. I would absolutely have business cards, and I would probably mail the trifold brochure. That would really be the best way to do it. You don't want to do phone calls unless you have a way of scrubbing the list for the do not call list, because you can get in trouble if you call people and they're on the do not call list. Okay. So hopefully that answered that. Anybody else have any specific questions?
Angela had one other question about, what are the related state laws generally called, like the state laws regarding note buying and selling notes?
I don't know what they would be called. I think that the biggest thing that you have to look for as far as not violating a law is to make sure that you comply with Dodd-Frank. That's absolutely the biggest thing, because that's a federal law. And so that covers quite a bit. The next biggest law that I see a lot is the requirement that you have to use an attorney to close. And that would be New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina. And I buy a lot of notes in North Carolina and Georgia. But both of those states, I always just hire an attorney to close the transaction. So it's not a problem. What I would do, first of all, do not call the state attorney general, because if you call them up and say, I'm thinking about buying seller carryback notes and flipping them to an investor or something, I can tell you their answer. They're going to say, you can do that. You've got to have a license. It's their pat answer. I used to have, thank God not anymore, but even like before Dodd-Frank and that, I would have people that they want to dot their I's and cross their T's, but they did it with the wrong person. You don't ask an attorney general that, because they're always going to tell you that that's illegal and you have to have a license. And you would need to ask an attorney. You know how a lot of attorneys are deal killers. You want a deal maker, and you want an attorney that's going to look at what you're doing, and you don't want to ask them a general question like I just said before. You want to say that I have a very specific method for buying and selling seller carrybacks. I always am a principal in the transaction. I buy the note and then I resell it. And I just want to make sure, are there any particular laws in this state that I need to comply with? And quite frankly, I don't know that that's a good idea to do, because they probably don't know that off the top of their head. And I doubt that you'd want to pay them to research it, because if they have to give an opinion to that, man, they would really research the heck of it out of it, and then they would really find something. I think a better way is to find people like in your RIA group, fellow investors who are doing this, even doing it for a living, that have been buying and selling notes for years, and ask them what you have to watch out for in that particular state. That is how you're going to find out what laws would affect what you're doing, without them just shutting you down just because you mentioned flipping a note or whatever. Okay. If you all are not in a local RIA group, you should get involved in one. That was the first thing that I did when I started buying notes. And I actually, before I was buying notes, I decided I was going to do property management, and I was going to buy properties. And my brother and I bought a 5-unit building in our little town where we grew up, and it needed a complete rehab. But my brother was a builder and knew all about that. And so we hired some people who were Home-A-Rama type contractors. The problem was they didn't do rehabs. They did brand new construction. Well, we were converting, this was a flat roof house, and we were converting it to a gable roof. They tore off the entire roof of this 5-unit building, and it was like kind of like condos or townhouses. So 5 townhouses in one building. And they tore off the whole roof. And if you went up and stood on the roof, I did not do this, but I was told that you could look down and you could see into the guts of the walls. And they didn't cover it. And that night we had like one of the worst storms of the decade. I mean, torrential downpour. And I mean, the whole building was flooded. It was horrible. And it was an older building, and it had sheetrock instead of drywall. And that sheetrock got all wet. And it was like, we had bought this. It was a storybook deal. We bought it with no money down. We got the seller to carry back a second. I mean, it was perfect. And it was going to put all my kids through college. We took the rents from $150 a month immediately to $450 a month. As soon as we would get the property done, we'd get the rents up, and it was just going to be a keeper, and we get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning that water's pouring into the building from one of the tenants, and go over there and see this. And we're on the end where they were bringing up all their equipment, like that entire roof was ruined. So you walk into that unit, and literally it was like standing in a 12 by 12 shower. The water was just coming straight through the roof, and it had all hardwood floors. It was a disaster. So needless to say, for my first purchase, I don't know what I would have done without the Cincinnati RIA Group. That was a long story to tell you how important it was to have a local RIA group. But I went there and I talked to a number of different people, and like they put me in touch with the Plasterers Association and all these things. And several investors came out and looked at it, and like I just don't know what I would have done without them. It wound up that I couldn't sell it. And it was really just too much for me to try to rehab. And even with my brother, it was just going to be a lot of work. We actually did finish 2 of the units. And at this point, I can't remember if I had finished those before this happened or after. I don't remember. Probably before, because we were getting the $450 a month at that point. So what I did was I called someone that I knew that used to live across the street from me, who I knew was like a slum landlord, and he happened to be a painter. And I called him up, and he had units on that same street. And I said, hey, I got a problem. I wonder if you could come over and help me. Maybe you could give me an estimate. And so he goes in, and I said, look what the water's done. And he says, Donna, that's no problem. Little plaster there, little plaster there. You'll be fine. And I said, you know, for you, since you are a painter, this would be no big deal. But I'm not a painter or a contractor. And I said, you know, I'm getting $450 a month for my 2 units on the end. How much are you getting for your units? It was probably $100 a month. It was like real low. So I took him over and I showed him those 2 units. And do you know that he bought the building from me? That was a godsend, because, you know, like I didn't see any way out of it. They were all wanting me to sell it and take a huge loss. I did not take a loss. I just didn't make a lot of money on it. I can't remember now. I do actually remember. After the insurance and everything, we made $15,000. Which was nothing compared to the $250,000 that we expected to get, but at least I didn't lose any money on it. But I couldn't have even gotten that far without the Cincinnati RIA Group. And so I highly recommend, with your notes, you go there, you find out who is buying notes, get to know them. A lot of the RIA groups have note groups now. Go to those groups. Bill, he's head of the group in Columbus and Cincinnati. Bill, oh, there you are, right there up front and center. Bill, do you have a comment, something you could add to that?
Just that, just what she's saying, just there's so much value in being involved and talking with other people, and people are so much more likely to engage with you and return phone calls and help you out and go the extra mile if they've seen your name or they've seen your face, or ideally both of the above, or they've even met you in passing. There's so much value to that. And yeah, that's part of the reason that I lead the note group, so that you know, people know who I am in that, whether it's notes or some other thing in real estate. There's just a lot of value in that. And especially if you have good groups like we do in Ohio, Columbus and Cincy, at least. They're large, and there's lots and lots of resources and contacts there that you can draw upon. Amen
to that. So that's how I would find out what laws are particular to the state that I want to buy in. I would go to the RIA groups. Okay, I see a couple other questions that have come in. And feel free, I didn't mention that, but write your questions in the chat. And then Matthew will give them to me. And Matthew, I don't know that I even introduced you. I guess you don't need an introduction. Everybody knows you. But I should say thank you, because I don't know what I'd do without Matthew. it amazes me because he zips around and I told him this week. He's answering a question and I had him fixing something for me on the screen and he's just boom. So I really appreciate him being here. But if you type your questions in the chat, he's already got them up here on the screen where I can see them because I can't see that little print in the chat. Okay. Oh, this one came by email, he says. Okay. So Carla wants to know, how do I get my notes bought at the table like in a simultaneous close? That is the easiest thing of all. And that is what I teach. I mean, unless either me or my student wants to buy the note, every deal that we do is going to be bought at the table. I mean, that is what my Easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching is all about. And that is the Sam and Bill example. What it is, and so go back through the Sam and Bill example. You are getting the note under contract to buy from Sam. And the way that you do it is once you have it under contract, then you're going to go and find a buyer. It might be FNAC, an institutional buyer, or it could be a private investor. That's another reason you need to be a member of the RIA group. Because when I first started, I had like 4 or 5 investors and they bought all my notes. Eventually I found United General and there was another one, I can't think of the name of it, Metropolitan. And that's really showing my age. You guys probably have never heard of them. But at any rate, you need to find your investor. And while you're getting the title work and the appraisal done, then you find an investor. And typically you would get that under contract. Like FNAC sends out their own agreement, you sign their agreement. So once you have a contract to buy the note and you have a contract to sell it, then there's 2 ways that you can close. You can either use the simultaneous close or you can assign the contract. And that is all just a matter of how you set it up with the title company. So if you're using the Easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching, that's what I do for you. I get that all set up. And while I'm doing that, I send you copies of my correspondence with the title company so you can see what I'm doing. And that is absolutely the best way to learn because you're learning on a live deal. So hopefully that answered your question. I think, Carla, it was a matter of the terminology because I never talk about that note being bought at closing when I talk about Sam and Bill, but that is exactly what is happening. Okay. Now, there's another thing that you might be talking about, and that is table funding. Because normally when people say they talk about at the table, they're talking about table funding if you're doing a private loan. And it's like, how can I originate a loan and get it funded at closing? And that would be a matter of the same thing. You originate the loan while you're getting your title work and everything like that. You find an investor and then you simply set it up with the title agent. And what I've been doing on all my deals recently is, well, sometimes I am the originator of it. I only do commercial transactions, and with commercial transactions, you do not need a license. So if that's the case, a lot of times I just sell the note to the investor and then I just add points to it. But I could also close in my name and then sell it to make my profit off of by selling it. So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, hopefully, Carla, one of those answered your question. Okay, does your training, this is from Juan, does your training discuss how to get leads? Do your lead generation strategies apply nationwide? Yes and yes. Marketing is the biggest thing because if you don't know how to market, you're never going to find any leads. And there is an entire class on just how to market. And I would love to hear other people's comments on this, but I can tell you just from talking with students and from the deals that I closed on the easiest 1, 2, 3 coaching, the direct mail seems to be the easiest and fastest way to get leads. And I give you the name of our, it's a fella who, in my opinion, has the best lead source, Scott Arpan, and he gives a discount to my students. And he also has my list of criteria, the type of notes we're looking for. So if you're going to do that, you'd buy a list from him. One of the big things that I like about him is if you tell him you're my student, he never gives the same list to another student. I think you get a 6-month window where it's your exclusive list, only as far as my other students. Like, someone else that's not a student, he might give that name to, but at least you don't have to worry about someone else on here marketing to the same people. But there's other ways besides sending out postcards or letters. In my opinion, networking is absolutely the best way. Going to the RIA groups, doing like Bill, I think, Bill, you have been one of the best at networking of all of the people that I've worked with. And when Bill first started doing notes, he would actually get on YouTube every Sunday night and make a presentation about notes. And I don't know if you'd even bought any at that point, or maybe you had bought a couple, I don't know. But and he would even call me up and say, Donna, you know that deal you talked about? Would it be okay if I make a presentation about it and I'll give you credit for it? And he would do these YouTube videos, and everybody, like, what a great way to become known as a person that buys notes, you know? And I love that. And then he became head of the note group. I mean, that is networking at its best. And that is exactly the kind of stuff I did 35 years ago, so that I became known as the go-to person for buying notes. So I don't think I've ever said that to you, Bill, but that's the truth.
Thank you.
Do you want to comment on that? I remember your presentations, and it could be a 5-minute or a 15-minute presentation, but you were teaching cool things about notes.
I guess my biggest comment about that is you just got to be willing to put yourself out there. And that's really hard for some people. I know that. You know, I've got a lot of experience with public speaking and I'm used to it. But at some point, you know, you need to be able to, like I just said, put yourself out there. You need to be able to strike up a conversation with someone, and you don't necessarily have to know everything to do that. It's okay if you know some things and not everything. Even now, I don't know everything. I know a good amount, but I don't know everything. And just be willing to put yourself out there and know right from the start, there's no might about it. You won't be perfect right from the start. You may, you know, when you speak, if you do a video or something, you may have some ums in there. You may have some uhs, and that's okay. You'll get better at it the more you do it. And you just need to work your way through the beginning. And then just like anything else, you get a little bit better and then you get a little bit better. Even Donna, who knows probably as much as anybody about notes in the whole darn country, she wasn't, the original note buyer when she was 10 years old. At some point, she started learning. She learned more and learned more and learned more and started talking. And she probably didn't talk as smoothly as she did right now when she first started, but she kept doing it. And it's about just starting wherever you're at and then going forward. That's really the key to it. I wish I could say it was more complicated. I wish I could tell you there was a silver bullet. There's really not. It's just about putting yourself out there and starting to do something or some things and sticking at it. And consistency is the key to, well, quite a few things in life, but this is another example of it. Consistency is the key, and coming up with an elevator pitch and being able to be consistent with that and being able to explain to someone in 30 to 60 seconds, even 30, probably more like it, you know, what you do, and kind of have your language down. So when someone asks you, you're not fumbling for words. That's what I would contribute to that.
That is a great plan. I agree wholeheartedly, Bill. And I'll tell you something funny. When I started speaking, I used to shake. Like I remember the first time that I spoke at Cincinnati RIA, and back then you had overhead projectors, and I'm not kidding you. I had to put my finger on the screen in order to hold it steady, because if I just pointed to the screen, it was shaking so bad. And do you know how I got rid of that? When that my thing was that I was always afraid that someone would ask me a question that I didn't know the answer to. And one time I was at somebody else's talk, big note person, I don't even remember who it was. And somebody asked them a question and they said, you know, that's a good question. I really don't know the answer to that. And I went, oh my God, it's okay not to know the answer, you know? And so when I realized that I didn't have to have the answer to every question, I wasn't nervous anymore. And that goes not only for presentations, but being on the phone with a note seller, because I would get some questions. I remember getting questions early on, and I would say, you know, I haven't dealt with that yet, but I work with an attorney and I will ask him about it, and I will give you a call back tomorrow and let you know, because I know he has come across that. And so you can do the same thing. You could say, I work with a woman that's been doing notes for 35 years. I'm sure she's come across that. Let me get a hold of her and I'll call you back. And people respect that. I'll tell you something, they would rather you tell them that you don't know, but you will find out, than to make up something. Because you make up something and it's not true, now you got a problem and you look like an idiot. But as long as you're just honest, and I really believe if you focus on the most important thing is the marketing, and that is all covered in the online academy and all the other materials. And that works in every state that you choose to operate in. Okay. So it does work nationwide, but I think that if you do that, and I would recommend that you listen to the classes on talking to a note seller, because we do role plays. Bill's been in several role plays with me on there, and what we did is we try to reenact and we ask the questions and present the situations that you might come up with when you're talking with a note seller. And the other thing is, I am always happy to make that call for you. If you're not comfortable to give the offer, tell me. I'm happy to get on the phone. Is Rhett on here yet? I introduced him at the workshop. Rhett,
Looks like Rhett's on here, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on here.
do you have your camera on?
Yeah, let me
You-
figure it out real
You don't
quick.
want to put your camera on? Not to put you on the spot, but awesome. Hi, Rhett. You want to tell everybody where you're at?
Yeah, I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia right now. I'm actually at Liberty University. I'm in college right now, finishing up finals week.
He is in his dorm room. And some of you already know the answer to this. If you were on Saturday, you know about this. Do you mind telling people how old you are, Rhett?
Yeah, I just turned 18.
Oh, I forgot you had a birthday. I said you were 17 before. I forgot about your birthday. So like, I am so proud of you, Rhett. I really, really am. We figured out I don't know when it was, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It was with his mother and family at an event that I went to speak at, and that was like a homeschool event or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a Ray's event.
And his mother actually is the one that got my course, and out of the blue, I didn't even know he was working it, and he starts sending me deals, leads that he got. He read the materials and he did the marketing and started getting these leads and sending it to me. I had no idea that he was 18 years old. I didn't know, but he asked me if I would mind making the presentation. And so I've made, I don't know how many, but he's got 2 deals under contract. And he just did his first mailing. So, and what he didn't tell us, I wish you would have said this at the workshop. When I put him on the screen last Saturday, he was sitting there putting stamps and addressing or whatever. You tell him what you were doing, right?
Yeah, I was finishing the last batch of 2000 for this month. It was, yeah, it's a long process. Thankfully, I finally found somebody I could hire to do it for me. But yeah, that's what I was sitting here doing last week on the call.
So he was sitting there doing that while he was listening to the workshop, which is great. But he just jumped in and started doing it. And he's living proof that it works, you know? Rhett, do you have any tips for people who are getting started?
I say the main thing is just get started, send the first mailing out. Obviously it's gonna be tough talking to people on the phone, but that's what you have Donna for. Also, like, it's not about how much you know, it's about like sounding confident when you're on the phone, because people, honestly, when you're on the phone, they really can't tell that you're nervous unless you give them reason to. So just sound confident, know your stuff, go through Donna's program, take the courses, that kind of thing. And it's really just, if you put in the work, you'll get the results.
So I have a question for you, Rhett. How much did you study the materials? Because you know a lot of details.
Yeah, I went through the program 3 times, so I wanted to be sure I knew all of it before I started.
And yet, Rhett probably asked me more questions than anyone. Like he is like a sponge, and he wants to not only know what he's doing, but he wants to understand why he is doing it. And I appreciate that very much. And I'm always happy to answer questions like that. And it's even more fun knowing that he has already, I can tell he's already been through the material and he wants a deeper understanding. So, Rhett, I am so excited and so happy that you are in the program. And I really look forward to closing a bunch of deals with you.
Thanks for having me, Donna.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Okay. So that's your tip from Rhett. And it's good to see you, Rhett. Okay. So more questions have come in. What was the name of your favorite list provider? And that is notesellerlist.com. And Matthew, I can never remember if that's plural or not. I always
Singular, notesellerlist.com.
notesellerlist.com. And that is by Scott Arpan. And the reason that I like him so much is he is a data-driven person. I mean, he can get data on anything. He can do customized lists for you. Now he has to pay for external filters, and so you might have to pay more. I think I mentioned this at one time. I wanted where the borrowers had a credit score of, I don't know, 625 or more or something like that. And so I had to pay a little bit more for those. I don't know that that was worth it. I wouldn't do that again, I don't think. And one of the questions says, will he be able to give you an idea if there are enough notes in your area to market to? Absolutely. Like he will tell you, I have, and we're looking at, it depends on how far you want to go back. Like you can buy the new list, or he can tell you how many he's got over the past year or whatever. And normally you can then choose, like tell him what states you're interested in. And he can say, I've got 55 from here, I've got 200 from here, and then you can kind of pick and choose what you really want to do. If you want like 1,000 leads, you know, I tell him I want 1,000 leads, here's the states I'm interested in, and then he can help you to build the list to get that many. As far as there being enough notes to market to, if there's 2 notes out there to market to them. If that's an area you like. When I first started, you've heard my testimony about I mean, this was a real deal that I shared about when I had to go down and I bought the second half of the note sitting in the jail cell. That was the first real deal that I did. And I had gotten 5 names. I had gone down to the courthouse because they didn't have online stuff back then. And I sat there all day and went through the mortgagee index list. I had 5 names. I will tell you that I wanted to throw them in the trash when I got home. And then I thought, wait a minute, I worked too hard to get these. I'm sending out to these 5 names. And that's where that first deal came from. So it doesn't matter if there's 2 names in that state, then get 498 names from a different state if you're wanting to mail 500 names out. So it really, and you know what I would argue is that if it's a state that doesn't have many notes in it, they probably don't get marketed to as much. Now, one negative point of that would be like a lot of the ones that don't have a lot of notes, they're Western states, Wyoming, Montana, you know, and those states might tend to be more rural. But if those people have a note, they want to sell it just as bad as somebody in Florida. So I would not hesitate to market to those areas. Would you market in areas that sales prices might go down? I have no problem in doing that because if I believe that the market is shaky there, I'm going to adjust my quote and I will just offer less. And then that way, even if the market goes down, I have built in a cushion. Also, go back to the option workshop that we just had last week. That's a perfect reason of why you would want to do the partial and use that option. If you think that the prices are overinflated there and that there might be an adjustment in the marketplace, just buy part of the note. That is a perfect reason, perfect application for doing partials. Okay, and do we have to be a student to bring deals to me? Yes, you do. And the reason is this. There's no way that I could work with as many people as I do if they don't have my materials. I remember when I was trying to be everything to everyone, this is years ago, and somebody got a note under contract, and it was Ron LeGrand's contract. Ron LeGrand doesn't even specialize in notes. He's a great real estate investor, but notes was not his forte. And in order for me to coach them or do that deal with them, I had to sit down and read through the fine print of his agreement. It's like, this is not worth my time. And so that's when I made the decision I could only work with my students. The other thing is, I have a new student from over the last couple months, and I was working with him, and one thing led to another, and he keeps sending me notes from PaperStack, and I have told him, yes, you can find notes to buy on PaperStack, but I think 9 out of 10 of them, they're not the type of notes that we want to buy. Usually the people who post on PaperStack have a problem note. Now, that being said, I sold a note on PaperStack and there was nothing wrong with that note, but and I got a great investor that has probably bought a dozen notes from me because I did that deal on PaperStack with him. But generally speaking, people, especially people who hold a lot of notes, people who have done a lot of reperforming notes or in the non-performing note business, and then they have got them to be reperforming. Those are people who list all the time on PaperStack. And I have faithfully looked at all of these notes off of PaperStack, and we have yet to even make a phone call and make an offer. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to you either. I mean, I've told him over and over again, this is a waste of time. And he's a student. But if you want to submit deals to me, you need to follow what I teach. And I have always told everybody our target market are the mom and pops, the people that owned the house and then they sold it and moved to Florida. Okay. That's our target market. Those are the people that want to sell notes and they accept a discount because usually they're up in age and they just need to liquidate for whatever reason. And whereas if you're dealing with all these people who are non-performing note specialists, they get a reperforming, now they want to sell it. That's not our target market. If you have your own investors and you learn this business and you want to do it that way, go for it because you could make money at that. But what we're trying to do, I'm trying to get you to get a deal closed as quickly as possible. In order to do that, you need to follow my program and not somebody else's. So I'm sorry if I went on a rant there, but Rhett is living proof of it. If you do what I teach, it works. You can't be trying to reinvent the wheel, and it's a waste of your time and my time, and we're just going to be spinning our wheels and not do anything. Sorry for that long answer. Okay. All right. What about land contracts? Any interest in those? Great question, Aliana. I used to buy them and keep them as land contracts. I still will buy them, but we will most likely convert them to a note in mortgage before we actually buy them. And that's no problem. I am happy to work with people. I would tell them they have to have an attorney. And normally they already have an attorney they're working with. And so I will prepare, well, we have to stick with the same terms of the land contract. So I will get with the attorney and tell them exactly what we're trying to do. I will explain that I'm going to be buying it, and would they convert this to from a land contract to a note mortgage. And a lot of times we do it as part of our closing. So it's done and we buy it and then we actually pay the attorney out of the note seller's proceeds. So yes, I am definitely interested in land contracts, even though I may modify them and convert them to a note mortgage or a note and deed of trust. Okay, and the reason that I don't keep them as land contracts anymore is so many localities or specific counties, they have changed and they're becoming very, very pro tenant. And like you can't, in many places you can no longer sell a house as a fixer upper, put a couple $1,000s down and we'll do a land contract and I'll give you credit for putting in a new kitchen or whatever it needs to be done. Man, you're stuck with it. You are responsible for making sure that that property is in good repair and whatever comes up. So there's no longer the handyman special on a land contract in many, many places. And they've just, when the laws flip where they're more fair to the borrower, I believe they need to be fair to both parties. And when it tips to the note holder is being punished and they're footing the bill for things that they have no business footing the bill for, then I'm not going to buy in those counties, or I'm not going to do a land contract. Okay, I've been talking a lot. Anybody have any comments on anything that we've talked about so far? I'd love to hear other people's opinions. And I think other people might like to hear.
I think I got all the questions from the chat, but you guys feel free, please, to speak up and ask any follow-ups or anything else.
Does the blind Santa have any comments?
Ho, ho, ho. Donna, baby, Santa's got his eyes on you tonight. I say a private note is private. Gave it that way. Have fun with it, make your money, and then remember, buy Santa some cookies.
What kind do you like, Santa?
Chocolate chip cookies are my preference, but I would not, frown upon other cookies. But I do like chocolate chip cookies.
Okay, you guys, you've heard it straight from his mouth. Make sure to get those cookies out.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you, Santa. Thank you for being on tonight.
Good, we got that cleared up.
Yeah, I mean,
Good job, Santa.
that's the best recommendation you're gonna get all night. What kind of cookies to leave out for Santa?
Good
Tell
advice.
my grandkids. Okay, and any other comments or anything? Kathy, you're good, that's what you're saying there, okay. Does anybody have a cool note deal that they'd like to talk about? Here's my plan. I think that what we'll do, we'll go, I want to ask you some questions, and then in a little bit we'll have our drawing for the best costume.
You're gonna ask them questions, Donna?
Why? You don't think they know the answer?
Oh. I thought this was where we ask you questions. You guys ready to answer some questions or what?
Well, they're going to be general questions.
Okay, all right.
I won't put anybody on the spot. I promise. Okay. So has anybody done a cool note deal that you'd like to share with people? Anything special that you've done this year or anytime? Something you'd like to share? See, the thing is that I get to participate in all your easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching deals, but I never get to hear about the deals you do on your own. And then I'll run into somebody like at a RIA meeting or something, and they'll say, "Man, I'm close." I seriously, I ran into this lady. This was back when I was doing non-performing notes, and she said she'd closed like 30 non-performing notes. And I'm going, "You didn't call me," you know. But I have no way of knowing unless you share. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Any deals they've done? Everybody's being quiet. Well, if you think of one, I welcome you to share it. Does anybody have an opinion? Now, you should have an opinion on this. Does anybody have an opinion on whether letters or postcards work the best? Come on, I know you guys have been mailing because I noticed, I recognize
Donna,
that I've worked.
Donna, it's a blind Santa.
Yes.
I got a tip.
What is the tip?
Well, I say, when you're looking for property, don't forget the North Pole, but not Santa's place. There's a lot of places in the North Pole where they rub noses to get a deal.
Well, that is
Oh,
that is a great tip, Santa, because I didn't even know that one.
and don't worry about it. Not too many mortgage companies up there.
Okay.
They never know what's hitting them.
Do you think you could help us with a list? Because I don't think
have no doubt.
Oh, we could help you with a list.
Oh, yes, Santa's got a list.
but I don't think
Second
it's
and
the
twice.
note holders.
Got to make sure y'all being not so naughty, but real nice. Right, Donna?
That's right. You got to be nice. Okay. Any opinions on whether letters or postcards work better? I have an opinion, but I wanted to hear yours first.
I vote for letters.
Letters,
Both of you are saying letters are better?
I think.
So I concur at this point in time. What I have found is that it's kind of cyclical. A year ago, I would have told you postcards are better. Because I can tell, because the people who submit deals to me, you know, I usually ask them, "Hey, did you send out letters or postcards?" And postcards were the way to go. It was like the friendly postcards with your picture on it and that kind of thing. But I absolutely believe that in the past year, the letters are definitely better. There's no question about it. And I have people who have done both, and it's so much, it's a significant amount of responses, greater response with the letters, that I have people that have printed postcards and they're not even sending them out. They just went ahead and switched. And I think I mentioned to you before, what is really important is that your letter must look professional. And to that end, I am not so sure that it's a good idea to use mailing houses. If you are using a mailing house, you need to include, like, what are they, there's a name for that. I don't know if it's seeding it, where put in not your name, but I'd use a different name, and your address, and have it mailed to your house and see what it actually looks like, because I've heard that a lot of them don't do a very good job. So, I mean, I was thrilled to see Rhett there stuffing his own, and he said he was going to find somebody to do it for him. But I love that he was not using a mailing house, and I didn't tell him to do that. That's what he's doing on his own. So that would be my recommendation, is to use the letters, and if you want, feel free to send me a copy of your letter. One of the big things is that if there's typos in it or poor grammar or anything like that, they're not going to get a good response. So
Mhm.
a great idea is to ask somebody that you know who maybe, is really good at that kind of stuff. But if you want, send it to me. I'm happy to look at it, not only for content or not only for grammar errors or punctuation and that kind of thing, typos, but also for content. I'm always happy to look at something you're going to use to market, just because two heads are better than one. Another set of eyes is always good. And I don't want you to waste your marketing dollars on something that doesn't look good. Okay. So feel free to send that to me.
Donna,
Yes.
I have a question for everybody. When talking about letters, how do most people address their envelopes? I use my computer, my printer. It's hard to find envelopes that don't get sticky when you put them through the printer. And I put stamps on them. I don't know how everybody else is doing that, if they use somebody or just want some ideas what people are doing.
Comments, Catherine.
I'm using the peel and stick letters and they tend to not jam as much. So I only get like one jam per every 100 letters and I'm sending 500 a week. So it's not that annoying, but I've got a cheap printer. So, I think that the labels, I mean, first of all, I can't get them on straight all the time. And I don't think they look as nice as through the printer. It's my opinion.
Any other comments?
We found a neighbor who is willing to handwrite our envelopes. And we pay her 20 cents per letter, and then we get it back and we put the stamps on it so we can double check that the right letter is addressed to the correct person. And we've found zero mistakes. She has great handwriting. It's worked great and she enjoys doing it.
That is a great idea, for you to put the stamps on yourself. That's a good idea.
I think there were some people that were using nextdoor.com and finding people that would do it for them in their area as well.
Yes, that is true. That's a good way to do it. When I was doing it, I paid my sister-in-law so much, and I paid her so much per piece because I knew that she would do it here and there, and that would be hard to keep track of the time. And I offered her a bonus for every deal if I got a closing off of one of her leads. Back then it was like $50 or $100. This is a long time ago. And I did that as an incentive for her to make sure that the addresses were correct. And that worked very, very well. Kathy, even way back then, I did what you did, only back then they didn't have, or I was too cheap to buy the envelopes that were peel and stick. And so what I did was I would print out my envelopes, I would stuff them all, and I'd open up like 10 at a time and take a sponge over them and then fold them up real quick. But I feel like I must have been in another Well, it was another century, actually. It was when you used a cartridge to put into the typewriter, and you could put all your addresses on that cartridge. So,
Typewriter, what is that?
oh, I never thought about that. That's what I used. And then you could take it out and put a different one in. And so then you could go back and send to the same people if you use the same cartridge. But anyway, my point was that my letters look good. They look professional. And I think that's why I did so well. And I think that's true today. So you don't want them to look sloppy. I will tell you though, one little trick, honestly, if you put the stamp on just a tad crooked, then they can tell it was done by hand. So don't put it upside down or totally sideways. But if they can see that it was, and I think actually just using real stamps instead of, the stamp machines where, it's, there's a name for that, I can't think of it. You don't want to use the metered mail. You do not want to do that. You need to use a commemorative stamp.
One follow-up question. Now, do you make the letter personalized by putting the person's name on there as well, like a mail merge? I did that, but then I just used a printer to print my letters, and so I switched to just not doing that and just doing the envelopes myself. But you feel like it's better if it has their name on the letter itself?
I have done it both ways. Back then, I actually had the body of the letter printed by a printer. And then I would add, on some of them I added, some of them I just made it generic, like, I can't remember now, but hello, without putting a name on it. But I also used that cartridge, and I would go in and it would just print out the name and address. And then you could always add Dear John and Mary or whatever. But you could do it either way. But I always hand signed them. So I use blue ink, I hand signed them. I think that you need to have their name and address on them at a minimum. So if you're going to do that, why not just go ahead and say, Dear John and Mary? You know what I mean? I think that that's worth it to do if you're able to do that.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts on that?
We do a mail
How
merge,
many,
print it to, print them out individually on our printer, but it's printed with their names on it. The letters are.
And do you have, do you do the mail merge yourself, or do you have somebody do that for you?
I do the mail merge myself.
Okay. Kathy, were you going to add something to that?
I was wondering how many touches people do with the mailing. So, and how often? So is it monthly, 3 touches, 4 touches? How often do they do that?
I think if you have, and I will give my opinion, and I didn't mean to cut other people off, but I think that if you are doing new notes where you got a new list from Scott, I would mail those like once a month for like 2 or 3 months. If you're doing an older list, then once a quarter. But I believe that you need to get, if you've got a note that was freshly created, you need to get your name in front of them quickly and often. Does anybody else have an opinion on that? Okay.
Every maybe 6 weeks. I mean, you could maybe stretch it out, but I definitely agree with Donna. I think it's better to mail repeatedly to one list rather than just once to a new list every so often.
I agree. I'm thinking that in the next few minutes, we should do our contest for the best costume. So I know some people, I see that you've turned off your cameras. If you have a costume, you should turn your camera back on. Maybe we'll do another question or two, and then we'll come back. Matthew, do you want to tell about the prizes and how that's going to work?
Sure. So Donna is giving away,
Don't make it too many. Like, I honestly don't know what he's gonna say.
we didn't discuss this ahead of time.
Do the same thing we did last year.
Okay,
No, she's
We're
gonna
gonna-
give away $1,000 to the best.
okay, what we did last year, I believe, was first, second, and third place. First place is $100 and the two runners up get 50. Is that okay, Donna?
That works for me.
All right, so we're gonna have 3 winners for the costume contest. And let's see, we're also going to be giving away a year. Oh, I meant a 6 months.
That's a drawing. I gotta get
Oh,
my-
that's the drawing. That's right. Donna's gonna pick a name out
I
of
am
that.
going to draw names.
All right, let's do the gift cards first. So if you want to be in the running for an Amazon gift card, turn your camera on and let us see your beautiful costume and face and all of the above. Okay, I can't.
Oh, I see Kathy. She's got her decorations.
All right, so give me a minute here. I'm gonna put this into a poll. We're gonna have, we're a republic, but that includes some votes from the people, so we're gonna open it up. All right, so everyone's in the running now. If you have your camera on, you're qualified for the contest.
Matthew, can I see all the cameras now, or do I need to go to other views?
Yeah, you see them.
Okay.
Okay. All right, give me 1 second here and I'm gonna set up a poll here. I want everyone to vote. Laura's got a Christmas stocking on her. Oh. And another prop too. Okay. All right, there we go.
Nice to see you, Laura.
Last call to get your cameras on. And Blind Santa is looking so cool. Do you want to come over and have a drink with me tonight, Santa? I would love to hang out with you.
Ho, ho.
Okay, all right. All right, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna make a poll. Let's.
Should we go through each one? We don't have that many with costumes. Why don't you each give a greeting before we vote?
All right, yeah, that's a good point. I'll give
I
you.
think that's a good idea, so we all know.
And tell us why. Tell the people why they should vote for you. This is your chance. This is.
There you go.
the-
Hi, John. Good to see you. You should leave your camera on. I saw you. Okay.
All right. Let's start in alphabetical order on the list here, I guess, or maybe not alphabetical. Bill and Heidi, why should the people vote for you?
Because I am the Viking Santa from the north. And
That is ferocious.
this is the origin of Santa.
Ah,
And he's got his Mrs. Santa with him.
And I have the prettiest Mrs. Claus here.
Well said, Bill.
I have to
Okay.
say that we've been married 27 years now.
You did
all right.
good.
Okay, let's see who's next in the run. Maurice, are you in the running? You got your camera on.
Marcy? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name.
Maris,
Maurice.
yes.
Maurice.
Yeah, I'm not dressed. I mean, I have no costume.
That's okay.
We're glad you're here.
We're glad
Thank
you're-
you. Thank you.
Angela's got a nice background. I think that might count. Angela, are you in the running?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I have an awesome Christmas background. I didn't dress up because I had a crazy work day, but I have really high Christmas spirit and great enthusiasm. My birthday is actually Christmas Eve.
Oh,
It helps.
Oh my goodness.
An extra little point, hopefully.
You
interesting.
are a good salesperson, Angela.
Brother was born on Christmas.
Yeah, it's close.
Okay. I have a friend who was born Christmas Eve.
It's a crazy time.
All right, so we've got. All right, next, Kathy, go ahead and tell the people why they should vote for you.
Okay, I am a Christmas tree. You see
Aha.
it doesn't all show up. And I have an angel sitting on my shoulder.
Aha.
Okay,
I like the angel.
that's good reason. Melanie, go ahead, Mrs. Grinch.
Well, because this is my true character, but Donna's Christmas parties, made my heart grow 2 sizes too big.
Oh. All right. Gosh, that's kind of hard to argue with. Catherine?
Well, I tried to be a tabby Christmas barn cat and that didn't work. So I had to go back to Rudolph and have my little baby reindeer antlers
I see
here.
the antlers.
Yeah,
I
yes.
saw you
And
prop
the
them
one
up right
thing,
when-
yeah, they're there. There's my little BB reindeer. They're my hair. And the one thing I do for everyone every year, because my birthday is on December 22nd, I bring the sun back. So I make your days longer.
Very good.
All right. Blind Santa, I don't think you need to say anything, but go ahead if you want to convince the people.
Blind Santa, the beard is original. It's stuck to my face, can't get rid of it. And by the way, don't forget,
The
No
very
matter
original
what.
beard.
I'm watching you all. I know where you live. I don't even need a mailing list.
Uh-oh.
So make sure you vote Blind Santa. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my God.
Gosh, so glad you're here. It's great. All right, Aliana, I know it's a big shoes to fill, but please tell the people why they should vote for you.
I know I can't go behind Blind Santa, but but I'll try Rudolph, the not exactly red nose, but hey, it's
I love
still
it.
in the Christmas spirit. So
I
vote
love
for
it.
me.
Very much is. All right, Laura, your turn.
Okay, so I just started pulling out my Christmas decorations today, so I didn't have time. I wanted to wear a hat, but this is the best I could come up with, my little stocking here. So, and then I thought, well, if this fits in the camera, maybe I can show my Christmas spirit here. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here. Your smile brings Christmas cheer.
Thank you, Donna.
I like the
How
stocking.
about John? You're going incognito, but I'm telling everybody who you are.
John, are you in the running?
I don't need to be in the running. I'm good. I'm just sitting under the Christmas tree though. I'm the best present around.
Oh, he's got the
Hey, I love that. And your tree is beautiful.
All right. I think we're good to go here. Did I set this up right? I think I did. Delete. Yes. Okay. All right. Christmas poll. This is going to be for first place, and then I'm going to choose the runners up. So this is for number 1. Here we go. Save. 1 second, you will get a poll. I'm launching it now.
Matt, are you in the running?
I'm not in the running. No. This is just for you guys. So we've got the poll should have popped up. I don't know what that looks like exactly for you guys, but I see some votes coming in already. Ooh, whoa, it's a close race already. Oh, we have two front runners. Oh, it's neck and neck, 5 and 5. All right, we'll leave this open for another. Keep those votes coming in. Ooh, somebody pulled ahead just by a little bit. Oh, 2 votes now. Keep voting. We'll let this run another 20 seconds here. If you haven't got your vote in, please vote. Vote for your new Christmas winner. Wow, that is close. All right. 5 more seconds. Let's make it 10. Let's give it a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. Looks like everyone's voted. 6, 5. Get your vote in. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. I think all the votes are cast.
Okay. I'm making an executive decision here.
Okay.
I think Blind Santa and Rudolph were great, and so let's give them each $100. And Melanie, you'll get the second prize for $50.
Well, Donna, you're right on the money because Blind Santa came in #1 with 9 votes. Aliana, aka Rudolph, came in second with 8 votes, very close, right on the money, Donna. And Melanie was in third with 4, followed up by Bill and Heidi with 3.
I really was watching the results on the screen.
Oh, you're watching it, okay.
And they were too close to say one, you know, I wanted them both to have it, so.
All right, fair.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Woo! Blind Santa loves y'all. Don't forget it. I'll be there for my cookies.
Me
Those
too.
cookies
I'll be
out.
with them. I'll be with Santa.
Hey, you know, what would Santa be without Rudolph, Ryan?
That's right.
Okay, are we ready for our drawing? This is for 6 months of free coaching.
Yeah, one sec here. I'll just I'm wanting first and second place. So just to be clear, Donna, you said that they both get $100 gift card.
Yes,
Well,
Melanie gets the runner up, the second for 50.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it in the chat. Melanie wins. Melanie, I think I've got to say, some people come and go. Melanie is like 3 years running now getting, I mean, she's gotten a lot of cash from you, Donna.
She always comes on and has the costume on, and I love it. She should get a prize.
Hey, I've got a $300 fountain pen bought by Donna. Best Christmas present ever.
Nice. I remember you asked about that. That's great. You still use that?
Yep.
Well, there it is right there.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
You can fly on planes and it won't explode.
That's cool.
Vacuum.
You
And you're
sign
like,
your note docs with
Hey,
that?
all my pens do. What are you talking about, right?
Nice.
Fountain pens explode on the airplanes.
I did not know that. You mean a good old Bic pen will explode?
Well, no, just the fountain pens. Like,
Oh, a fountain pen. Got it. Okay.
this won't because it seals. So,
Okay, are we ready to draw for the 6 months of easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching? Are we ready? Okay, let me see. I do have a bag. Oh, I'm not supposed to look.
You can't look, Donna.
Mohammed Khan,
Mm.
are you on?
Not even here.
Mohammed, are you here?
Oh, you gotta be here to win. Are you here? Okay, we gotta we'll count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. We'll draw again. Kathy Cosner.
Hey, Kathy wins.
Yay, I could use that. Thank you.
And I love working with you, Kathy, so that's a win-win.
That'll spur me on.
Absolutely.
that this year.
Okay. Well,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. You're very welcome. Okay. So not that we have to end now. I said we'd go till 9, but does anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about? I'm kind of talked out. I'm okay to call it a night. I think this has been a great party. What do you guys think?
You could call it. I know Blind Santa's got a lot of elves to go get in order.
Blind Santa.
And you know
Blind
what I
Santa.
noticed?
Blind Santa's ready to take your Christmas orders. All you gotta do is keep your naughty at home, be real nice to Santa, mind your P's and Q's, make sure I got plenty of chocolate chip cookies. And you know, I'm thankful that somebody else got the fountain pen because Blind Santa doesn't write real well.
There you
Ho
go.
ho ho.
Well, I'm going to make an extra batch of chocolate chip cookies this year.
Just for Santa.
I
Just for
noticed
Blind Santa.
you guys can't see my hat. Can you see it now?
There it is. We see it.
Like, I got this special hat that wasn't the same as last year, but it disappears. And I sure couldn't sit here like this all night and talk.
Make sure you send my winnings to Mrs. Claus. I wouldn't know if an envelope showed up if it wasn't for her reading it to me.
Fair.
Oh, that's good that you have Mrs. Claus.
All right, Aliana.
You know how I know
Aliana.
Mrs. Claus loves me? It's because she's never left me at a roadside rest.
Okay. But what were you gonna say to Aliana?
I was gonna say, Aliana and Melanie, I've got your contact information. If you want me to send the gift card to a separate email for if you have a different email for your Amazon account, let me know. I'll send you guys some emails about that. And Blind Santa, send me an email, info@thenotebauer.com. Let me know where to send your Amazon gift card. I don't have your North Pole email address.
And thank you all for being on, even if I did not call your name out. I see John, John Shipley, I didn't say hello to you, and Ruth Smith, glad you're here. And there's so many that I can't see, but at least those of you have cameras on. So thank you for participating, and I hope you enjoy the replays that Matthew put together. You might come up with other questions. If you do, you can email them to me. I'd be happy to respond. And I hope you all have a very, very Merry Christmas. And Santa, I'm going to steal your comment. Ho, ho, ho. Okay.
Thank you.
Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hope you all have a wonderful Christmas.